Chairs No Waiting, episode number 672, listener feedback number 45. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you each week by the folks over at weaversdepartmentstore.com. Drop by over at Weavers and check out the brand new Mayberry Man playing cards. That's right, a deck of cards, 54 cards, different pictures on the face of every card, stuff from the movie. Go and check that out. It's a lot of fun. The back of the card has the Mayberry Man poster. While you're over there, you might want to check out the Mayberry Travel Guide by Randy Turner, a great book, all about stuff you can see when you go to Mount Airy and Mayberry Travels. And while you're traveling, maybe you want to get a Mayberry patrol car license plate. Head over to weaversdepartmentstore.com and check it out. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners just like you. And I want to thank Robbie Curley for being the executive producer of episode number 672. Hello, everybody. I'm Alan Nicholson, the host of Two Chairs No Waiting. And it's always fun to spend some time in Mayberry. And this is one of my favorite type episodes. We have these every so often. This is a listener feedback episode, number 45. Now, I say it's number 45. We've had listener feedback on other episodes that I didn't number as listener feedback because I did other things during those episodes. But I believe this one's about number 45. And it's just always a lot of fun to be able to hear back from you because you get to hear from me every week. And I think it's nice to hear from our audience, you guys, all of you who are listening and watching on YouTube. We have voicemails from several different listeners, as well as comments that were submitted online, mostly from YouTube, by the way, YouTube viewers of Two Chairs No Waiting. And if you only listen to the podcast episodes, if you just listen, you're missing out on some of seeing my smiling face all the time, which I don't know if I don't know how much you're missing on that, but, but you also miss out on some photos and things like that I show often when I'm talking about a particular topic or subject. So I want to encourage you, if you enjoy watching YouTube videos, you can watch them on your phone. You can watch them on your tablet. You can even watch them on your smart TV. And I look pretty good on a 60-inch TV. Well, I look as good as I can look on a 60-inch TV. Anyway, so I want to thank everybody that does watch over on YouTube. And I thank all you guys that just listen to the audio version as well. And I try my best to make sure you don't miss anything just because it's on audio, but you're missing out on a little extra if you don't. And we're also going to hear our second installment of Returning to Mayberry with SpiritWalker. He's going to be presenting, it's called Peterson to Nicholson. And I know you're going to enjoy that. So we'll do a little trivia. But let's go and hear, first off, I want to hear some voicemail that we have. So let's go and hear. This one I thought was really amazing. So I definitely want you to check this out. He'll explain where he's from. So Ryan, take it away.
Hey, Alan. My name's Ryan Foster. I'm originally from Adelaide, Australia. Moved to Austin, Texas about 5 years ago. Just enjoying your podcast at the moment. Only up to episode 41 because I only started listening about a month ago. And that's because I only started watching the Andy Griffith Show late last year. Me and my kids were looking for something to watch on Amazon, and a lot of the stuff on there is trash, and I saw the Andy Griffith Show. I thought to myself, this looks like it's pretty wholesome. I've heard of it in the past. So we started watching it and instantly got hooked on it. We were watching about 2 episodes a night and got through it pretty quickly. And then we got on to the first season of Mayberry RFD. Had to slow it down and only watch 1 episode a night. And then that led me to finding Weaver's department store where I was just looking up Goober's hat. I was looking up Goober's hat because I was just wondering what it was. And it took me to Weaver's, and I saw all this stuff there. So I decided to buy a couple of things there for Christmas for my stepson. And I saw the Two Chairs No Waiting Christmas ornaments. I didn't realize it was your podcast. So when I was searching Mayberry podcast later on Spotify, Andy Griffith Show podcast on Spotify, I found Two Chairs No Waiting, and I've been listening to it pretty often when I'm on the road or when I'm just working on things in the garage. Anyway, I won't take up too much more time. Thanks for the podcast. Thanks for everything you do. And thanks to Weaver's Department Store. Bye.
Oh, man. Isn't that awesome? That's great. So I am so happy to anytime I hear from anybody who's from overseas or lives overseas here on the podcast. That is just so cool to me that people that didn't grow up in the South or not even from the United States, enjoy the Andy Griffith Show. So that's just a great feeling, isn't it? So thank you so much for shopping over at Weaver's. We really appreciate that because they do help us support the podcast. And you can get you a Goober beanie. You can get a Goober beanie over at Weaver's. And if you have a squad car or anything like that, you can wear that while you work on your squad car. You can do that as well. So thank you so much, Ryan. So I'm going to bring in now, we're going to kind of go back and forth a little bit because this will make it a little more fun. So let's bring in a comment from over on YouTube. And this is from Zane Taylor. He says, it always makes me cringe. Now, he's talking about episode number 671, last week's episode, 10 Things to Know About the Andy Griffith Show. He said, it always makes me cringe when I hear people mispronounce Andy's last name. His last name was Griffith, not Griffin. The only TV personality that I know of with the last name of Griffin is Peter Griffin. And now that's the guy on Family Guys. Remember the cartoon. They're both funny and Family Guys, but that is where the similarity ends. Andy was a real person and Peter is a cartoon character. Thank you for putting this one on the list. So, another TV personality that used the name Griffin was Merv Griffin, and that's who I think of. Of course, I'm old. I'm old enough to know who Merv Griffin was. He actually created Wheel of Fortune. There you go. Now you'll probably know. That's who created Wheel of Fortune. But he was also a talk show host. But it always bothers me, Andy Griffin. So that's the reason it was on my list last week. So, all right. So let's head back and hear another voicemail. And this is coming in from Clayton. So let's hear from him.
Hi, my name's Clayton, and I actually have a question. The church in Mayberry, was it ever actually a real church?
So thank you so much for calling in, Clayton. And no, it wasn't ever a real church. The church on the Andy Griffith Show that you see, especially the outside, was on the set. It was called 40 Acres. So that was the back lot. It's what they called it. And that's where all the outside shots were shown on the Andy Griffith Show or were filmed, like of the outside of the courthouse, the outside of Andy's house, the church on the outside. That was all at 40 Acres. And those buildings were empty. They were facades is what it's called. So it's just basically the outside of the church. And then on the inside, there would have been nothing normally. It would just be an open, probably didn't even have the rafters covered up. There was no sheetrock or anything like that on the walls. It was just an empty building. So, but that is a good question because it was probably dressed up like a church on the inside from time to time, at least partially, so you could see through the door, but it was not a real church. So that's a good question, though. Thanks for calling in. That's great. So let's head back over to hear another. This is a YouTube feedback we got. And this is also about episode 171, the 10 things to know about the Andy Griffith Show. And it's from Greg Crane. He says, don't forget old Hugo Hot Flash might have been on the wrong side back in 18, but he was a heck of a soldier. So maybe that was another one of the 10 things that we should have listed out. So as I said, there's lots of things that we could go through and be able to list off. So I didn't hit them all. So next up we have Jeffrey Beck. He called in, so let's hear from him.
Good afternoon. I was listening to the Mayberry Spirit podcast, and you was talking about watching on Pluto TV. What would be real neat if you could somehow go back and see the whole episodes, plus the actual commercials that they showed back then. That would be so neat. Also, a point of interest, I was watching Bachelor Father today, old show with John Forsythe, and lo and behold, there was Floyd on there, and also John McMasters. You know, we sent for that program a long ways away. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you, Jeffrey. Isn't that always fun to be watching a show and spot a Mayberry character? And a lot of people write in and give us that information. They post things like that online. Sometimes if you head over to imayberrycommunity.com, they have a whole thread of Mayberry sightings that they've had over there in the past. I think it's still running, but there's they see these folks a lot of times on Perry Mason. Perry Mason has tons of Andy Griffith Show cast members or actors that were on the Andy Griffith Show that were on there. So that is always fun to spot as well. So thank you, Jeffrey. Thanks for calling in. So let's head back over to a comment from YouTube. And this is from Ben. And this is about the Myers Lake is Franklin Canyon Reservoir episode I did back, episode number 652. He says, is this where Barney would take Thelma Lou to see the ducks? LOL. And I thought on Valentine's Day, which is the day I'm recording this, it's actually Valentine's Day in 2022. I'm sorry. It's 2022. I don't even know what year it is. But it is Valentine's Day. So no, that probably wasn't, because Myers Lake and the duck pond, which is where Barney would have gone. When do you want to go up to the duck pond? You can't see the ducks at night. That's where Barney would have taken Thelma Lou. But it's still a great comment. So yes, thanks for writing that in. It made me laugh. Anyway, I enjoyed it. All right, so let's head back for another voicemail. And this has come from Laurie Anne. This is a great one. This is a great email. So voicemail. Let's check this out.
Hey, Alan. This is Laurie Anne, and I'm calling from, well, I'll admit it, I'm calling from New Jersey, but that's another story. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know how much I've enjoyed the Two Chairs No Waiting podcast, especially over the last 2 years. I've gone back and listened to all of them. Of course, I'm a big Andy Griffith fan for my whole life, and now I enjoy watching the show with my two grandsons, who are aged 11 and 13, and we laugh together and we see how things used to be, or they see how things used to be, and we learn a lot of lessons. I grew up going to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and my parents lived there for 30 years till 2017. Their house is in Nag's Head, which actually Aunt B mentions in one of the colored episodes. I forget which one, but her and her date had gone there. Anyway, Nag's Head's only a couple miles from Manio on Roanoke Island, which is where Andy owned an estate since the late 1950s. We always knew that, when we went over to Manio, there was, a little bit of a chance that we might run into Andy there. He would pop in every once in a while, maybe to the Ace Hardware or the post office or the Seamark grocery store, which was near my mom and dad's house. The folks in Manio were real protective of him and respected his privacy. He loved Manio, and over the years did many things to help that wonderful little town. And it really was and is a lot like Mayberry. I heard him actually say that in a speech one time. But anyway, I also want to thank you for letting me know what happened with the Amazon Prime. I nearly had a meltdown last week when I turned it on and I said I had to pay for the episodes. So my poor husband, he figured it out with the help of our kids and got us hooked up with Pluto TV. So I'm real thankful for that. But I think it's probably about time for me to bite the bullet and get a box set from Weaver's Department Store. So I might be doing that real soon. Anyway, I just want to thank you for this podcast. It's kind of been an oasis in a dry and weary land over the last 2 years for me. Just thank you for all that you do. I hope you have a good week, and I'm looking forward to your next podcast. Signing off, this is Laurie Anne. Bye, Alan.
Thank you, Laurie Anne. Wow, that is a great report. Thank you so much for that. So she is in New Jersey. Didn't tell us why she's in New Jersey, but she's in New Jersey, and it sounded like she felt like she needed to apologize, but you don't. We appreciate you being up there and listen to all the podcast episodes. So thank you so much for that. Now, she mentioned Nag's Head, North Carolina, and the Aunt B had gone there on a date. So if you know where Mayberry probably was located in the state, that was a long trip to go to Nag's Head. If it was just a day trip, I don't know how they did that. I'm not sure how many hours that is, but it's all the way across the state of North Carolina, which is a pretty far piece. So that's true. So, and thanks for also getting your grandkids, make sure they're watching the Andy Griffith Show. That's great. And head over to Weaver's and get you a DVD. Make sure you don't miss these things, but at least you got Pluto TV to carry you through. So thanks for that. All right. So now we're heading back over to YouTube to get a comment here. And this is from Being Romanized, Being Romans 829. I like that. I like that. And he's talking about the 10 things to know about the Andy Griffith Show. He says, another thing that definitely needs to be on the list is the fact that the Andy Griffith Show is not Mayberry RFD. So we had a conversation back and forth about this because I said, well, people just call it that because it's Mayberry, Mayor of RFD. They called it that. Like I call it Mayberry, or he even said, yeah, I call it Andy. He said, but they shouldn't call it Mayberry RFD because that is our actual show. And I can't disagree with that. That is a true statement. So yeah, people get it confused because that is a real show that's called Mayberry RFD. So that's a good point. He made a good point. People shouldn't call it Mayberry RFD because there is a show called Mayberry RFD. So, all right. So let's hear, here's one. This one, I don't know who sent this. It's short, it's sweet, and I like it.
There is nothing better than the Andy Griffith Show. I keep watching it over and over and over. Love the reruns. Can't get enough of it.
And that's it. It's a great show. I love it. Watch it over and over and over. You can't get enough of it. I can't disagree with you. And I thank you for calling, but I don't know who you were. You didn't leave a name or anything. So you were unknown, but I liked your comments. So thank you for taking the time to call in and leave your message. That's exactly, you're 100% right. So we're going to head back over, being Roman 829 also had this to say, talking about the same episode, the 10 things. He wrote a second comment that says, Mayberry is remembering in your mind and in your heart an America which you could leave your doors open and unlocked at night. A time when the good, the clean, and the wholesome were the norm. Some say that is an America that never existed, but we know better, and we remember every time we watch Andy. Yeah, so that is a nice sentiment, and I can't disagree with that either. So thanks again for taking time to write in on that. All right, so next up we have another voicemail, and this one is from Maria. We have a couple of them from Maria, so we're going to play one and then come back later and do the other. Here's the first one.
Hey, Alan, this is Maria Taylor calling from Harrisburg, North Carolina. The whole premise of 3 Wishes for Opie was that Barney told everybody that Andy and Helen were getting married because that's the wish that he thought Opie made. When in reality, the wish Opie made was that Helen can go on being his teacher even in the 6th grade. So have a great day. Bye.
So what she's referring to is, I think it was probably last episode. It was last episode of the podcast. The trivia question was a true or false question that was Opie wished for an A in arithmetic. And she just, because at the time I was like, what did he wish for? I couldn't remember. And she was answering that question that I had asked about Opie wished for an A in arithmetic, true or false. The answer is false because she already gave you the answer. All right. So thank you, Maria. And we got another message from over on YouTube. We got a few, so I may knock through a couple of these all at once here. So let's go and check these out. This one's from Larry Taylor. He's responding to episode 670, Mayberry State of Mind. He said, wouldn't Charlene's baby be Angelina Wash? Well, that's also, I think, from a trivia question I had asked on that episode, which I can't remember where it is. And I think actually, let's go and listen to the next voicemail because it is also related, and I think it's from Maria. So let's go ahead and hear this.
Hey, Alan, my name is Maria Taylor from Harrisburg, North Carolina. I really enjoy the podcast, but 2 things. The trivia question that you asked this week about Angelina, it was a black and white episode, not a color episode. It was during the 5 seasons, and the baby's name is Angelina Wash, not Angelina Darling, because Dud was her father. Thanks. Bye.
Yep, that is a correct answer. She is right. And the question back then, and so was Larry, they both got this, and they were related. That's the reason we went ahead and played that. So the question, I believe, was Charlene named her daughter after Andy. It was either that or I said, who is Angelina Darling? I cannot remember But it was one of those questions, I believe, that was what I had asked that week. You'd have to go back and listen to the episode number 670, and you could find out. But that is correct. And I think I said, I thought it was a color episode when Charlene brought the baby back. But she says it wasn't. So I believe her. I believe 100% that that's the truth. All right, so let's head over back to our voicemails. I think not voicemails, but messages from over on YouTube. I think that's all I have left is a couple of these. So this is from Abigail. She says about the episode Mayberry Spirit, which was episode 668. She says, I'm currently going through all the episodes in order. And of course, the color ones aren't my favorite, but they can't really be fairly compared, especially without Barney. The color versus black and white days should be seen as two different shows, I think. So that's a good point. So thank you for that. I believe I have another comment like that. Yes, this one's from Susan Sides, and she's responding to the same thing. She says, I like many of the color episodes very much. It almost seems like a different but still good show, more than the first 5 seasons, right? So the color seasons are like a different show than the first 5 seasons. Any episode of the Andy Griffith Show is better than most shows produced today. That's what she said. And I agree with both, that it does seem like almost a different show, because you've got the black and white episodes and the color episodes almost feel different. And I can't disagree with that at all. But I do think they both are better than most shows produced today. So, all right. So next up, we're going to hear from Abigail again. She's talking this time about episode number, it's called 666 and 7/8, which, by the way, I was real worried about doing episode number 666. And so this is where we came up with this title, and it has been one of the most viewed and downloaded episodes I've done. And I don't know if it's because of the name 666 and 7/8 or what, but here's what Abigail had to say. She said, I hope you rub the head of a red-haired man before posting. Also, I have the ability to find 4-leaf clovers like your mother. I don't know why some people just have that gift. I don't either. My mom can just spot them. And I think so. Abigail can do it as well. So thanks for responding. Here's another one from Laurie Taylor, also about episode 666 and 7/8. He said, this is interesting to me. I'm a retired airline pilot, and my airline never had a flight number 666. I used to go to France and Germany to pick up brand new Airbus A319s, 320s, and 321s. Those are airplanes, in case you didn't know. Even though you may see registration numbers on the side of the plane, each aircraft has a serial number issued by the manufacturer that never changes. The numbers on the side of the plane can be changed as the ownership of the plane changes. We had 2 jets coming off the assembly line, one right after the other. Their manufacturer serial numbers were 665 and 667. Airbus did not issue a manufacturer serial number of that number, 666. Congrats on reaching a beastly milestone. I'll be in here for all of them. So thank you, Larry. That's really interesting that the airlines actually avoided using that number as well. And I believe that is all of our feedback. So thanks to everybody for the feedback. And I'd love to hear from you. You can email me at floyd@imayberry.com. You can leave a message over on YouTube like these folks did, and I'll pick through them and try to get some of them. Or my favorite is you can send me a voicemail at 888-684-8415, and I'll give you that number at the end of the show as well. All right, guys. So we're going to just do some real quick trivia because this show is going to be running kind of long, I'm afraid. But let's get a little Mayberry trivia music. There we go. Unless you have a few, we'll do 3 or 4. We'll do 4 or so here, and then we're going to hear from SpiritWalker with his report. All right. So, number 1, Opie wished for a jackknife. True or false? Opie wished for a jackknife. True or false? Not going to give you a lot of time on these. You just got to pause if you don't want to know the answer. Opie wished for a jackknife. The answer is true. That's exactly what he wished for. All right. Who sat in the front seat during Barney's new car ride? Okay. Who sat in the front seat during Barney's new car ride? You'll sit in the front seat next to the driver. I'll be driving. So I gave you one. Who sat in the front seat in Barney's new car when they went on the ride? This is pretty easy if you can just visualize this at all, which I can't help it. The answer is, it was Barney and the driver. I'll be the driver, so I'll sit in the front seat. And Thelma Lou, you'll sit next to the driver in the front seat. I'm not getting the dialogue right. And Andy is as well sit in the front seat. So it was Barney, Thelma Lou, and Andy in the front seat. Oh, I love that episode. When that steering column comes out, and Thelma Lou's, Barney! That's good. All right, number 3. How did Otis fall in the courthouse? How did Otis fall in the courthouse? How did Otis fall in the courthouse? Do you remember? When Otis sues the county. That was the name of it. How did he fall in the courthouse? Okay. How did he fall in the courthouse? I forgot. I got one more little bit of trivia here. All right. He fell in the courthouse because he tripped over his coat. Remember that? Tripped over his coat. All right. Now, our last trivia question. Here we go. And only going to do this today because I got one more thing I wanted to tell you. Okay. Who said, "You're funny for a sheriff"? Who said that? Who said, "You're funny for a sheriff"? Who said that? It's multiple choice, so I'll give you the choices. Who said, "You're funny for a sheriff"? Barney, Goober, Opie, or Floyd? Who said, "You're funny for a sheriff"? The answer is, hey, you're funny for a sheriff. It was Floyd. That's right. So, all right. So, hope you enjoyed those. That's all of our trivia for the week. But I do have one more voicemail that I forgot to give you. So let's check this out. This one is coming in from Marty Beam. He says, "I really enjoy the podcast each week. Thanks for all you do. Has anyone ever noticed or mentioned that the enlargement sign is missing an E and is spelled enlargements in Walker's Drugstore? Has anyone ever noticed that? It's in an episode called Ellie Comes to Town. It's the first episode with Miss Ellie. And it says enlargements above the, well, I don't know what it's above, but it's in the pharmacy. And it's easy to see when Ellie is denying Emma her pills. When she comes out and meets Emma for the first time, you can easily see it above her head. If you're watching the video version, I'm showing it. So that's what Marty had said. He said, "Best of luck to you and yours." So there you go. If you hadn't seen that, it's in the episode called Ellie Comes to Town in the first season. And it's when Miss Ellie first appears on the Andy Griffith Show. There's a sign in there, which I just think it's funny. I guess we could blame Fred, Ellie's uncle, for spelling the name wrong. Enlargements. But there it is. So thank you, Marty, for bringing that up. That is a good question. Good question. All right. So now, which I have not even seen, this is the world premiere of the Returning to Mayberry segment by SpiritWalker. He sent it late last night, so I haven't even got to watch it myself. So we're going to watch it together. So let's head over and hear from SpiritWalker with Returning to Mayberry.
Won't you turn on the Andy Griffith Show? Forget all your cares and woes. Sit back, relax, and laugh with friendly folks you know. Take up your fishing pole.
Welcome to Returning to Mayberry with special correspondent SpiritWalker from the Andy Griffith Show Esquire Club.
Thanks, Randy. Oh, how you do that with your voice. Welcome to return. I can't do it. Hello, Mayberry Spirit Watchers. Welcome to the Esquire Club. As you know, here at the Esquire Club, we are conducting an experiment called Returning to Mayberry, where we try to take any person, place, or thing from Mayberry, connect it to something outside of Mayberry, connect that to something else, that to something else, until eventually something returns to Mayberry in no more than 6 degrees. And then the returning to Mayberry item then gets connected to another item in Mayberry, and we start the process again and again and again. And I believe it continues ad infinitum, forever. So we're trying that experiment, and the last time we had returning to Mayberry, Doug Dillard with the Dillards. So we're going to start with Doug Dillard today, and we're going to see where we can go from there. So let's begin, shall we? Doug Dillard made his first appearance in Mayberry as Jevin Darling in the 25th episode of Season 3, The Darlings Are Coming. And he would appear in 5 more episodes, along with the rest of his group, his guitar-playing brother Rodney, mandolin player Dean Webb, and bass player Mitch Jane. The Dillards were a big musical influence on many other groups and individuals outside of bluegrass. Their music influenced the Eagles, the Byrds, and even Elton John. In fact, the Dillards accompanied Elton John on his first American tour. Bassist and keyboard player John Paul Jones of the heavy metal group Led Zeppelin acknowledged their influence on his music as well. Now, right off the bat, Andy Griffith suggested that the Dillards write and perform their own original music on the show. It made good business sense, because that way, every time an episode aired in which their music was played, they would get a royalty check. So the Dillards began to write their own music for the show. In fact, the first tune that they wrote, Doug Dillard wrote it on a break during the first episode they were in. He wrote it, he played it, the band joined in, and they played the song on the same episode. Now, Doug didn't have a name for the song, so on that episode, The Darlings Are Coming, they called it Slimier River Bottom. However, on the 5th episode of Season 4, Sheriff Andy Taylor requested that the Darlings play Doug's tune, and the name stuck. Now, Doug wasn't the only one to write songs from the Dillards. In fact, one of the most popular songs that they played was written by Rodney Dillard and Mitch Jane. It was so popular with fans and the show alike, especially Andy Griffith, that they played it 3 times in the show. 2 times. Because the last time, Andy Griffith himself played it by himself. It was a very popular song. But the first time the song was sung on the show was probably the most memorable. The song was called There Is a Time, and it was sung for the first time by the band's on-screen sister, Charlene, in the 12th episode of Season 5, The Darling Baby. Charlene Darling was played by the lovely and talented Maggie Peterson, now known as Maggie Peterson Mancuso. Margaret Ann Peterson was born in Greeley, Colorado, to a musical family. Her father played the banjo, as did her brother Jim, and her sister played piano. So they sang together from childhood. It wasn't long before Jim gathered 2 of his musical friends, and along with Maggie, they formed the Jada Quartet. And they became quite popular in their home state of Colorado. They played all over the place. But their favorite place to play was a large resort hotel called the Stanley Hotel. Now, they could only play the Stanley Hotel in the summer months, because in the winter months, the roads became impassable with snow and ice. And so a caretaker would take care of this huge hotel. The Stanley Hotel is 420-room colonial revival hotel. It's huge. And this caretaker would basically be snowed in for the winter. In 1974, a young novelist and his wife checked into room 217 of the Stanley Hotel. They quickly found out that they were the only overnight guests in the hotel. That's because the hotel was about to close for the winter. When the novelist heard about this caretaker that would be taking care of this hotel through the winter, he began to come up with an idea. As he and his wife roamed the lonely hallways and sat in the massive ballroom and ate all by themselves with all the other tables, chairs up on top, nobody around, he went back to his hotel room and he began to write his next novel. You're probably way ahead of me on this one. That young man's name was Stephen King. King published the novel The Shining in 1977, and it quickly became a bestseller. In 1980, director Stanley Kubrick brought King's novel to the big screen. The movie about a caretaker and his wife and son spending the winter in the Overlook Hotel, which was modeled after the Stanley Hotel, was an instant hit. The star of the movie The Shining was played by someone who would become a powerhouse actor in the film industry, Jack Nicholson. About 14 years before Nicholson became caretaker Jack Torrance, he appeared on the Andy Griffith Show as Mr. Garland in the 10th episode of Season 7, Opie Finds a Baby. He played the father of the baby Opie and Arnold find on the courthouse steps. So the circle is complete. From Doug Dillard to Maggie Peterson and Mayberry, from Maggie to the Stanley Hotel, from the Stanley to Stephen King, from Stephen King to his novel The Shining, from the novel to the movie, from the movie to Jack Nicholson, and back to Mayberry. And so once again, we have proven that everything returns to Mayberry. There you have the Shining connection. And if you have something you'd like me to connect to outside of Mayberry, drop me a line at the Andy Griffith Show Esquire Club, and I'll be happy to see what I can do. But until next time, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And keep spreading that Mayberry spirit. 'Cause it's so fine to spend some time with all these dear old friends of mine. Have a bottle of pop. Come on, let's watch the Andy Griffith Show. I thank you.
Wow, that was awesome. Great job there from SpiritWalker returning to Mayberry. If you want to make sure that you don't miss what he's doing, because he's got other stuff going on, he has a Facebook group called the Andy Griffith Show Esquire Club. That's right, he has it. And you can head over there and check it out. The link will be in our show notes, but it's basically, it's actually called, if you go to, starting it again.
On the Andy Griffith Show, forget all your cares and woes. Sit back,
so he's playing his music again. Let him stop it.
Folks you know.
So it's actually facebook.com/group/TAGS Esquire Club. And you can head over there and check it out. Because it's a lot of fun. He's got a lot of stuff going on over there, and that's where you'll find SpiritWalker. So thank you very much for that report, and it was fun because I honestly didn't watch it until we just did it right now. So this is really fun. So thanks, SpiritWalker, for that report. And I want to thank all of you guys for being here and all the support you give me here on the podcast, for buying over at Weaver's. I want to mention as well, if you'd like, you can buy 2 Chairs No Waiting stuff. So there's stuff, and it's on sale from time to time, so be watching for sales. But you can get a 2 chairs, and it's a barber and 2 chairs is what it's called. And you can get all kinds of different colors, T-shirts. There's mugs and stuff as well, mugs and long sleeve T-shirts. You can get a Mayberry Meetup 10 currently. This will be gone by the summer, so go and check those out. And you can get the old original T-shirts as well. And not just T-shirts. Head over there and check it out. There's T-shirts, there's mugs, there's all kinds of stuff over at the link, and it's also in our show notes, so go and check it out. Friends, I just can't thank you enough for being here with me in Mayberry. I always enjoy spending this time with you. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a long episode tonight, but it was great hearing from our friends out there and their listener feedback. And I would love to hear from you as well. You can email me at floyd@imayberry.com, or you can do what I really love, like so many did, and send me a voicemail at 888-684-8415. and let me know what you think about the show or comments you have about the podcast or whatever you got. I love hearing from you. So until next time, everybody, I hope you have a great Mayberry week, and we'll see you right here on Two Chairs. Good night, everybody.